Welcome back to another tutorial. In this tutorial we'll see how you can add colors in Figma. So the first one is solid. I'll just select the frame. I'll go on the right side. In this panel you can see I have a fill option. I'll just click on this FF, that is a hex code or white. Then I can just change the color whatever I want. I can make it red, and let's say I want it a bit on the whiter side, so I will keep it here. If I want it to be darker, I can just drag it down. If you don't want a red color, you can just drag here and you can find the color of your choice and you can just apply it. If I want to change the opacity, the option right next to the color, I can just decrease the opacity, I can increase. So in this way you can increase and decrease the opacity also. Now in Figma, you have different options, that is hex, RGB, CSS, HSL and HSB. Personally, I like to use hex code because that are available online easily and you can find the color palette according to your choice. So now, I'll just select hex and I'll just, if you know, like the hex code for white is FFF, I'll click it, it will get applied. So as of now, I'll keep a solid color, let's say some brighter pink. Now we'll move on towards the next, that is linear gradient. So how is a linear gradient applied? So for that I'll just select the layer on which I want to apply. I'll go again in fill option on the right side panel. I'll click. Now this first option was the solid one. The second option is the gradient one. Let's say I'll click on gradient. So you can see the gradient has been applied. So let's say I don't want the color to be white, I want to be a different. I'll just choose here. By the same way, I'll just drag and find a color that I like. I'll keep this time on the teal blue side, and the other color I'll keep it as, let's say, blue. So I will keep this. Now you can see the opacity of this color is 0%. I'll just increase the opacity and make the opacity as 100 so that the linear gradient looks good. Let's say I don't want two colors, I want a linear gradient with more colors. So for that you can just click here. If I'll click in between, another gradient will get added. Let's say I'll change the color, I'll keep it a bit white, and I can change the opacity if I want. I can zero, it gets black. If I'll increase, I'll just keep the opacity here. So let's say I don't want the linear gradient as vertical, I want it as horizontal. So for that what you can do is you can just select this and you can rotate. If you'll rotate, you can easily see how the gradient is changing. You can just make it small, even you can rotate it, it's your choice. So I'll keep it something like this. So this was linear gradient. Now let's see what is angular gradient. So for angular gradient, again I'll select the layer, I'll go in right side panel, I'll click on fill and I'll go in the gradient, then I'll click on the radial and the angular and the diamond. So first we'll go with angular. So if I'll click on angular, so basically angular is like it will get applied in a circle at different angles. So let's say I want it to be 4 colors minimum. I just click here, and if you want you can change which color you want, where you can change the radius of the angular gradient if you want it to be small, if you want it to be big. First let's apply some colors. So for here I'll go, I have applied green color, then I have applied a bluer variant. I've increased the opacity. Let's say I'll add a blue, this blue, I'll increase the opacity again, and let's say the last one, let's keep it as something like yellow. I'll just select this and increase the opacity so that it's visible. So in this way you can make an angular gradient. I can just change the color, angle at which point I want. I can adjust according to my choice and I can get desired result, and even you can change the radius. let's say small, big, small, big, small. This is how angular gradient works. Now let's say I'll select diamond. So how diamond works? So I'll just go again, I'll go in gradient, again I'll select diamond. So diamond basically gets applied in diamond shape. It's quite similar to what we do in radial one. So let's say I'll again do the same process. I'll apply a color. Let's say I want it to be as green first, then the second one, let's say I want it to be on the pinkish side, and I'll just increase the opacity so that it's quite visible. Here also I can add different colors in between if I want, and you can just play around with it. Let's say if you can make it as, let's say, something different, yellowish, this color I can make it as, let's say, bluish gradient, so I'll keep it bluish. Now you can see you can get a diamond gradient very easily by doing the same here. If you will drag it, the radius will get decreased, and you can also rotate it according to your choice. So let's say I'll keep it something like this. So this was the diamond gradient. So the last one we'll see the radiant gradient. So the radial gradient works like, I'll select radial. So radial basically gets applied in circles. So if I keep it like this and I'll change the color, let's say I'll make it red, in between I'll add another color, another one. This, let's say we'll keep it as green, and let's say this one we'll keep it as this one pink, let's say I'll increase this one, and the last one, let's say I'll keep it as yellow, and I'll increase the opacity again. So in this way you can achieve a radial gradient also. So in Figma we have basically 5 coloring options. Either you go with solids, that is this, either you can go with linear gradient. In linear gradient you can add as much as color you want. You can change the orientation in which way you want the colors to be aligned. Let's say I want it to be horizontal, let's say I want it to be vertical. The another one is angular gradient. So angular gradient gets applied in particular angles. You can change the angle of any of the color that you want. You can even change the colors, and even you can change the radius of it. The next one was diamond gradient. So diamond gradient gets applied in the same way as radial, but it gets applied in diamond shape. So you can change the radius of the diamond if you want. Even you can change the colors, and even you can change the orientation as you want. The next one was radial. Radial gets applied in the circular region. You can change the color, and you can even change the radius, and even you can change the orientation that you want for the radial gradient. So this was the colors in Figma. Thank you.